brief tutorial on how to enter a Medcare evaluation into our Practice Perfect software. First, enter your username and password. Log into the software. You should come to your client list. A patient's already added to the system, as it should be for you. We select the patient by clicking on it. You can also flag it. We go to the two pieces of paper, which is activity by document. Select it. This is a list of all documents. If there were an evaluation already done or a prescription scanned into the system, it would appear here in this list. We want to create a new document. We're looking for an evaluation form. We always use forms that say Medcare in the front. This is a Medcare evaluation form. It will open up the form with the current date. However, if the evaluation was not done today, we change the date to the date of the evaluation. The diagnosis codes will be added later. When you do your SOAP note and do your billing, that is where you will add the diagnosis codes. The diagnosis description or treatment diagnosis is just a place where you can write how you're describing the diagnosis codes you've chosen. It's a language that makes a little more sense or maybe more detailed. For example, if you chose abnormality of gait as a diagnosis code, it may be a festinating gait, and you might want to describe that. Or poor balance and unsteady on feet, maybe how you describe the ICD-10 code unsteady on feet, since there is no poor balance code. Maybe disuse atrophy of bilateral lower extremities. My diagnosis code may be right knee pain, but maybe I want to specifically indicate that it's interfering with gait and mobility or something to that extent. Now you go through the evaluation, fill out all pertinent fields just like you would any other evaluation, taking special care to include all Medicare required and recommended fields. We do have stars here. The stars are basically on areas that are either Medicare required or highly recommended and discussed in the Medicare manuals. This is pretty typical for an evaluation for what you would do in any facility. There are drop-down menus. Most areas where there's drop-down menus, there's also a text box where you could fill in more detailed descriptions if you'd like, or if you prefer to write out text as opposed to using a drop-down menu. As you can see, ambulation, but there's also a box here. Go through, fill out all pertinent information. We have problem lists here. We have G-code reporting. This is very important, the functional limitation reporting, where G-codes get entered right into the evaluation, like so. The impairment levels, like so. We choose a current level and a long-term goal level. Hint, hint, long-term goal. Medicare does want us to actually make this a long-term goal. Discharge is not applicable right now. You only use the discharge impairment level at discharge. And then we put a little blurb as to our clinical reasoning used to come up with these numbers, like the current number here. For example, maybe I used the Tenetti gait and balance assessment, and maybe it was a score of a 10, and maybe that correlates to 40 to 59% or something like that. I can check off my plan, frequency, duration, interventions, etc. And then very important is the PQRS reporting, which is built into the evaluation form. There are 6 measures for the physical therapist, 9 for the occupational therapist on our documentation. So for example, with this patient, if they had a BMI of 25, we'd enter the 25 in the box, which is within the normal range. So we select this one. What I do want you just to take notice, we were unable to indent the boxes when we created our evaluation form. However, any line that does not have a G code, like this one, means it goes below or is affiliated with the G code above it. So if I selected this G code here, BMI is above normal parameters and follow-up plan is documented below, this would be how I documented below. I could advise the patient to speak with the MD, which would be this checkbox, or if there was something else I did, I could write it in this box here. And that's true throughout these G-codes, PQRS G-codes. They are divided by these gray bars. As you'll see, here's the second measure, the third measure, the fourth measure. As you go through each measure, select the appropriate boxes and move on. You'll notice as you go down, when you get to the OT measures, it will actually say OT only measure, number 1, 3, 4. Once that happens, the PTs, you can stop. You've done your 6. The OTs do have to finish filling this out, 1 selection or G-code per PQRS heading. Once you've completed that, your evaluation is done except for your long-term goals. Long-term goals are not entered on this evaluation, but they're entered in the bullseye or target. Think of a long-term goal as a target. We click on the bullseye with the plus sign, and this dialog box opens. This allows us to add goals. If you click on this arrow, here's a drop-down of goals, which are automatically entered into the system. You can use one of these prefabricated goals, although you'll notice some of them you do have to change the text. And most of these you would want to make it appropriate for the patient, so you may need to edit them here or there. For example, if I chose this decrease fall risk goal, I can actually click on this box or hit the tab key on my keyboard, and it pre-populates. In order to change these blanks, I have to click in the box with the mouse. My cursor will appear, and I use the arrow keys to scroll from one area to another. Now I'm at the blanks. So I may say whatever number it is that I want to enter here and here. Now my goal is complete. You can hold the mouse over it and see most of the goal this way. I want to call this a long-term goal, and it began on today's date. Nope, this is 2016, not 15. Another example of a goal. I can hit tab and it pre-populates the entire goal. If I like the goal the way it is, I can leave it the way it is. Select long term, put the date, hit enter, it brings me to the next line. I can also add my own goal. If I don't want to select one of these prefabricated goals, I just click on this box, type my goal here, go to long term. The reason I keep focusing on long term goals are required by Medicare. Short-term goals are not. This is an example of where I could put a score of maybe my Tenetti balance assessment, or if I maybe did, let's see, an AMPAC. I can put that score here, and then I say OK. Saves it to the patient's file. It does not show up in the evaluation until you leave the evaluation and then re-enter it. By double-clicking, if I scroll down, and I'll show you where the goals have appeared. Here they are. If you want to read them completely, you hold the mouse over it. When you print, it will show you the entire goal. Just to give you an idea of how to do a print preview to see what your evaluation is going to look like, you can hold the mouse here, say print, and then say preview. And this is an idea of what your evaluation will look like. Notice we didn't fill out that much, so there's not that much here. These fields will appear if we fill them out, and most of them disappear if we don't fill them out. And I can cancel that. Now, basically I'm done with my evaluation at this time. The only thing I need to still do is to add my diagnosis codes, which, as I mentioned, that will be done when I do the SOAP note, which will take place in another video. If I want to complete the evaluation or sign it, I would go up to this status box and do complete unsigned if I think I may need to come back and change something, or complete signed. I can easily go back to my client listing screen this way, or if I wanted to navigate to SOAP notes, I could click here, and these are my progress notes or SOAP notes.